There we go.
Okay, terrific. And the lighting looks good.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I will check back in around 8.
8 o'clock. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, if you're just checking in, seeing us, we have a performance at 8:10. So we're just setting up. This is Callisthenes for Christmas. So come back here at Facebook Live, or you can find us on the Rhino, THERHINO.org. You can sign up for Zoom for free. We'll be starting at 8:10. Bye. Hey, Joe. How's it going?
Good.
Great. Just want to test the sound.
Sound is good.
Okay, let's just see. Okay, good. Test, test, test.
Sounds good.
All right. And back here. Test, test, test.
Still sounds good.
Yep. And test, test, test.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. And and the shot is good. Lighting's good. Okay, great. So thank you for joining us, everybody. We will start in just a few minutes. Yay! In 332 BC, Alexander the Great, with Callisthenes, his friend, his biographer, his philosopher, and his historian, were crossing the great sand desert of northern Africa, headed towards the Temple of Ammon, for Alexander the Great had a question for the Oracle of Ammon, located at Siwa. They were in the midst of a massive wind storm, blowing sand in their faces. They struggled through the great sand desert toward the Temple of Ammon. Come, Callisthenes, we're moving towards Ammon, towards Siwa. Come, Callisthenes. Come, Callisthenes. Up. Just one more mountain to climb, then we'll be in the valley. Oh, the sun. I'm so thirsty. The sun beats down in this great sand desert, this wilderness of sun. The sun. Water. Callisthenes, I need water. Even Alexander the Great needs water. A cloud, Callisthenes, a cloud. Clouds are forming. They're forming over our head. Clouds are forming. They're forming. Thunder, bring rain. Thunder, bring rain. Rain, bring rain. I need water, rain, bring rain down. Rain on me, clouds, thunder clouds, rain on me, clouds, rain on me. No, water, more rain, I want water. Oh, thank you. Oh, Callisthenes, water. But the clouds are dissipating. The wind is back, Callisthenes. Callisthenes. Forward, Callisthenes, forward to the Temple of Ammon. The best wind scene ever is in the best Christmas movie ever, The Lemon Drop Kid. Yeah, that's where the best wind scene ever is. In that movie, Bob Hope heads to New York City in the middle of the winter from Florida because he's got to raise $10,000 to pay off mobster Fred Clark. And he's in the middle of New York and he's dressed for Florida and he's being blasted by the wind. And it's like, he's trying to move against the wind. And the wind's so strong it blows him backwards. Oh, and he's so cold in New York with all that wind, and he sees a little dog with a little doggy jacket named Fifi, and he's like, "Come here, Fifi. Come here, Fifi. Come here." He mugs the dog for its little Fifi jacket, its little dog jacket. It's not a very pleasant scene, a dog mugging scene, so it's kept off screen. Thanks, Fifi. Thanks. I love that movie. It's the best Christmas movie ever. I just love it. And you know what it introduced? It introduced that great Christmas song, one of my favorite. Silver bells, it's Christmas time in the city. Hear them ring. Except in the movie, it's introduced by Fred Mertz. Yeah, William Frawley playing a gangster, like a hood. But this is how he sings it. Silver bells, please put some dough in the kitty. It's great. It's the best movie. It's wonderful. I loved it. And in 1989, at Christmas time, I was studying ancient history at San Francisco State University under Dr. Hoffman. Yeah. And that weekend, the weekend after school let out for Christmas break, I was headed home to see my parents for Christmas. So I did my ablutions. Silver bells, it's Christmas time in the city. Hear them ring, ding-a-ling, city sky drops, na-na-na, na-na-na-na-na, 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 da-da-da-dum, da-da-dun-dun, da-da-dun-dun-dun-dun, da-da-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. So I was off to my parents to see them for Christmas. And in my pocket, I had a copy of Plutarch's Life of Alexander. What a great book. And in that book, I discovered the story of Callisthenes, my favorite Greek philosopher. He was great. Now, so how do you get interested in stuff like this? I mean, how do you get interested in ancient history, ancient Greek history, ancient Greek philosophers? Well, it helps to have a great teacher. And that's what Dr. Richard Hoffman at SF State was. He was such a good teacher. He was so calm, and he'd stand in front of us, and he was so natty. He was always dressed for class. He always wore a tie and a jacket and a nice shirt. And he was so calm, but he was full of so much passion, so much energy. He was a real performer. And he taught us about everything. He taught us about ancient Egypt and the Minoan culture and the big volcano at Thera, Santorini. He was amazing. And then he moved into Greek and Roman history, which was incredible. He taught us about Hellenic Greece, the famous 5th century, the Periclean age with people like Plato and all the great tragedians like Aeschylus and Euripides and Sophocles. It was incredible what he taught us. And he taught us about Hellenistic Greece. That was the period of Alexander the Great. Yeah, that was his great moment, was during the Hellenistic period. It's called the Hellenistic period because it was an extension of the Hellenic period, right? So the Hellenic period was in Greece itself, but the Hellenistic period was the extension of all that great learning to the rest of the world. And then he moved on to the Roman Republic. It was amazing. And then to the Roman Empire. And he even moved a little bit into the Middle Ages. And he just stood up there and lectured and told us stories. And he had this great slideshow of pictures he'd taken himself on his travels in the ancient world. It was amazing. And he used to say things like he really wasn't into military history, like he really didn't care for battles and things, but he was great at narrating the great battles, the Teutoburger Wald, and the battles in the East against the Parthians, the battles of all the great people like Julius Caesar. He was amazing. And I imagined him in the morning doing his ablutions, getting ready to come and teach us. I'm sure he was very thorough. Silver bells, it's Christmas time in the city. Soon it will be Christmas Day. I was so inspired by him, my favorite teacher at San Francisco State. It was great. So I was all dressed up for my parents, all dressed up to go see them. So here's the thing. I was going to spend Christmas Day with my husband, with my wonderful husband, Michael. But the Saturday before Christmas, I was going to spend with my parents. You see, there was kind of a riff in all this. You'd think we'd all be together, right? But only 3 months before, I told them all about me and Michael. I mean, I never even said I was gay, really. I just went and told them that Michael was my boyfriend, my partner. Well, that had interesting results. I went and saw my father. He was in the playroom of our old house, and he was watching a football game. And I said, Dad, I live with Michael the same way that you live with Mom. Wow. Don't tell your mother. Well, I determined that I was going to tell both of them. So I went right downstairs to the kitchen where my mother was washing dishes. Well, your father's having a very difficult time at work, so don't tell your father. What was this, like a comedy routine? Had they planned this? Don't tell, don't tell, don't tell, like they'd cancel each other out? Like if I couldn't tell anybody, I wouldn't be gay? It'd be like an existential elimination, like something Aristotle would cook up with Nietzsche? Like, because you couldn't tell anybody, you're not gay. It's like they planned this. If one of the kids come to us and say they're gay, then we'll just say, don't tell, don't tell, don't tell, and then it'll be don't ask, and then you won't be gay. It was weird. Anyway, so I was headed home to visit my parents at Christmas time under somewhat strained circumstances. Alexander and Callisthenes, they were headed on their own great adventure, also in very strained circumstances. They'd been fighting in Persia for 2 years. And when they left Macedonia at the beginning of their campaign, Alexander said to Callisthenes, I need somebody on this campaign. I need somebody to write my history, a historian. I also need a biographer. And I need a philosopher, somebody I can talk to when I don't quite know what to think, what to do, somebody to inspire me. This is going to be a long war. I need somebody qualified in all positions. And what exactly are your qualifications? Callisthenes. Well, Your Majesty, I would love to serve you. You, the king of the Macedonians, the king of the Greeks on this great campaign. My main qualification is I am the grand nephew of Aristotle. He was my tutor. Wow, that's good enough for me. He was my tutor too. Callisthenes, you'll do just fine. Soldiers of Greece, we advance into Persia. 4 times the Persians have invaded Greece and put us under their sway, reduced us. We've managed to drive them away, but we will never eliminate this pestilence until we defeat the Persians, until we drive into Persia and make it all an extension of the Greek Empire. We will advance into Persia. We will subjugate them. We will kill King Darius III. We will assume his people into Greater Greece. Are you with me? Ha! And we fought our way across Persia into Lydia, into Cilicia, into Syria, into the city of Gaza, and then we liberated Egypt from the Persian occupation. Callisthenes, we've conquered Egypt. We've driven off the Persians. There's something I want to do, something I've always wanted to do, to consult the temple at Ammon. It's the most important oracle in the Mediterranean. After the oracle at Delphi, I want to go there and ask them a question. Are you with me, Callisthenes? Will you embark on this great adventure with me? Yes, Your Majesty. It would be an honor. This wind is incredible, Callisthenes. We're lost. We're lost in all this sand. Your Majesty, look at the crows. Follow the crows. Why, Callisthenes? They'll show us the way to Ammon. They've been sent by the gods to protect us. Follow the crows. They're over here, Callisthenes. Oh, they're the crows. Follow the crows. Follow the crows. Here it is. Here it is. This is it. This is it. Callisthenes, we made it. The temple of Ammon. All right. Let's go in. Your Majesty, you have to go in alone. You are the great Alexander. I am a mere philosopher. Yeah, okay, you're right. All right. Here I go. I'm going to go ask the priest my question. Your Majesty, take your helmet off. Oh, yeah. Good idea. Thanks. All right, here I go. I am the priest of Ammon. Who comes before me? I am King Alexander of Macedonia. Bow your head, Alexander, before the god Ammon. Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, yeah. So you're Alexander. You, O son of Zeus. Me? Son of Zeus? Bow your head, Alexander. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Got confused there. Yeah. What is your question for the priest, for the oracle, for the god of Ammon, O son of Zeus? Actually, that was my question. You answered it. Thanks. Great Alexander, son of Zeus. Callisthenes. Hey, yeah, Callisthenes, he called me the son of Zeus. He called me a god. And so you are, your highness. So you are, a god among men. I'll bring peace to Asia. If I'm a god, I can do it. I'll defeat the Persians. I'll bring peace to all the world, and I'll write your history. I'll write a history of you, a history of a god. Come, Callisthenes. On my way to my parents, I stopped at the Legion of Honor. I had to buy one more present. That was a deck of bridge cards for my mother. They had these beautiful bridge cards up there I'd seen before when I visited the museum, and I knew that she'd love them. So I got her these wonderful bridge cards. She'd get a kick out of them. I also got a book on sailing for my father and a book on art for my little brother, because I like to encourage his interest in art. And then I rode a bus down to the Golden Gate Bridge, and then I hopped on a bus that would go to my town. I was a big bus rider back then. I loved the buses. And as I rode over to my town, I read The Life of Alexander. It was great. I loved reading about him. He was so inspiring. He truly was great. And when the bus got to my town, it stopped. I got off and I walked through my town. There on my right was the church I'd gone to, St. John's, as a kid. There on my left was the school I'd gone to, K through 8, where Mr. Nelson was my math teacher and gym instructor. And then I walked up my lane, Lagunitas Road, with elm trees and oak trees and the smell of redwoods and eucalyptus filling my lungs. Suddenly I was 6 years old again, surrounded by these beautiful summer houses that fill up my town, now turned into full-time houses for families. And then I got to my lane, and I turned left, and I walked up my steep lane through the redwood trees. Oh, that smell, the smell of the bark. And I got to the top, and there above me was my parents' big white house with the columns. But I didn't walk in the front door. The front door is for guests. I walked in the back door. I walked into the family room, and there was my mommy in the family room. And she stood up and she walked towards me and she said, "Jono, aw." And I went upstairs to the playroom to see my father, who was sitting there watching football. "Oh, come on, pass. Oh, Jesus, what a bunch of malarkey. What idiots. Pass the ball. Oh, hey, Jono, how are you? Ah, give me a kiss." Right. "Oh, come on, throw. I'll catch the damn thing. Oh, what a bunch of idiots. And then I went into my parents' bedroom where there was the upstairs phone. My little brother was on the phone talking to one of his friends. Yeah, no, I'd love to. That'd be great. Hey, how are you? That'd be great. No, I'd love to. Then I went downstairs for the big moment. At the bottom of the stairs, I turned left into the living room to see our Christmas tree. Every year, so big, going all the way to the ceiling, covered with lights. And I turned the corner and there's no tree. I was looking at nothing. There were no lights. There was nothing. It was empty. No tree, no presents, no lights, no ornaments. I couldn't figure it out. I went back into the family room and I said to my mother, "Where's the tree?" And she said, "Listen, if you want a tree, you go get one. I'm not going to get one. I get one every year." But that wasn't true. We did it as a family. Then I realized, hey, she'd organize it every year. That's what she was talking about. She didn't want to organize it. So I'd organize it all on myself. I'd go get the tree for my family. So I went upstairs to my father and I asked him for $20. "Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Oh, come on, run with the ball. What are you doing, skipping? Here's 20. Oh, here, give me another 10. Oh, my gosh. Oh, for God's sake, don't hold on to the ball when you've got 15 people. Oh, my God, they're all trying to tackle you. Have a good trip. Yeah, get a good tree. Oh, what a load of malarkey. Horse dump. So I went downstairs and I got into my grandmother's Dodge Dart, which we'd inherited from her a few years before. Everybody called it a granny mobile, but it had a V8 engine. It was huge. And when you turned it on and hit the gas pedal, it lurched up in front. It had so much power. And I drove north to Sebastopol, where we always used to go to get our trees. As I drove north, I tried to figure out what was wrong with my family. When I got there, nobody was talking to anybody else. They're all just sort of moping about the house. There was no connection, nothing. So I couldn't figure out what was going on with them. I mean, I thought that I was going to be the big problem, what with my announcement a few months before, but that wasn't the problem. Obviously, there was some other problem that I had nothing to do with. It was weird. I got to the Christmas tree lot and I turned into the parking lot and I stopped the car. I got out and I looked at the Christmas tree lot and all I saw was stumps and all these people wandering around looking for a tree, but there was no tree. There were just saplings, which you couldn't buy. And there were all these families, forlorn, looking for a tree, but all the trees were gone. An empty Christmas tree lot. Except in the middle was one huge tree, big as the sky, perfect for our living room. But it wasn't a good tree. It was sort of bent. It had holes in it. It didn't have a good side, and nobody was going to take that tree. And everybody was wandering around looking for a tree. And I realized that if I didn't buy that tree, if I didn't buy that big tree in spite of the gaps in it, that somebody else would. So I went up to the guy and I gave him the money. And he got out his little chainsaw, the little tiny ones. He went, and he cut down that tree. And I went up to the stump of the tree, and I picked it up, and I put it on my shoulder. And he got the other side of it, and we walked it over to the Dodge Dart, and we loaded it up onto the top of the car, just like I'd see my father do. And I paid him a tip. He got extra because he gave me the last tree in Sebastopol. I knew that all the other farms must be like this, that this was the last one. And then I tied it onto the roof of the car, just like I'd seen my father do for years. And then I got back into the car and I drove back home. I was so proud of myself, but more than that, I wanted there to be a tree. It couldn't be a Christmas visit without a tree. I kept wondering what was going on at home. What was up with them? It wasn't me. It couldn't be me because the feeling was there before I arrived. I drove around on the lane, pulled up right in front of the house, got out, untied the tree, and I dragged it to the house, and I walked in the front door. Hey, I'm home. I got a wonderful tree. Merry Christmas. Meanwhile, Alexander conquered the Persian Empire. I got Babylonia, then Bactria. Callisthenes, come here. You want to talk to me? Yeah, come and sit down with me, Callisthenes. Yeah. What do you want to talk to me about? Your Majesty, well, Hephaestion, my boyfriend? You can say it, Callisthenes. Hephaestion's my boyfriend, yeah. Very well, Your Majesty. I hope he's a better boyfriend than he is a general. He's not a very good general, Your Majesty. No, he's not. But he's a terrific boyfriend. Say, how's that history coming? The history you're writing on me? Oh, well, you make writing easy, Your Majesty. It will be my Iliad. You will be my Achilles. And I will be Homer. Callisthenes, you are the only man who understands me. Come, we must get back to the army. Forward! So, I dragged the tree into our living room. And then I put the stand on it, just like I'd always seen my father do, onto the stump. And then I raised the tree, just like the flag on Iwo Jima. And there, I'd done it. I'd raised the tree in the living room. It was right there, in the corner, where it belonged, where it was every year. But it was full of holes. It had holes all over the place. You know that maxim, you always turn the bad side of the wall of the tree, but all the sides were bad. So I got down and I struggled with my tree. I wanted it to work and I turned it, but there was still a bad side. And I turned it. Still a bad side. I turned it. And then I sensed, I didn't even have to look. I sensed that my mother was standing behind me. And I sensed that she was smiling. And I turned to look at her. And she walked over to the stereo, their old stereo system. And she put on a record, Christmas music. Silver bells, it's Christmas time in the city. And she just stood there watching me struggle with my tree, trying to find a good side. And then I sensed my father was standing behind me. And I turned to look at him, and he walked out of the room. What was wrong? Didn't matter. I had to find a good side of this tree, so I turned it. And then I looked back. And my father had entered the living room holding those big blue boxes full of ornaments. And over his arm were ropes of Christmas lights. And he didn't push me out of the way. He didn't shove me out of the way, but he just sort of nudged up next to me. He set everything down, and then he started roping the lights around the tree in exactly the position I'd left it. And my little brother came in and started helping him with the lights. And soon they were putting the decorations on. And soon they went over to the corner and they plugged it in. And it lit up gloriously. And we all backed away from it. And we turned around to look at the tree. It really was a Charlie Brown tree. It just needed a lot of love. And my father stared at the tree for a moment. My little brother, my mom. And then my dad turned to me. He looked me in the eye and he said, "That's a darn nice tree, Jono." And then he went over to his chair. And from under his chair, he brought out our favorite Christmas book. It was The Night Before Christmas. Now, it wasn't a great edition. It was just like a cheesy kind of laminated edition, but it was all cracked and old, this one that we loved. And he read from it, and he read the section that my little brother loved best. It was the line. It was one specific line. It was, "I ran to the window and I threw up the sash." But that's not how my father read it. This is how he read it. "And I ran to the window and threw up." No, that's what it says. It says it. No, it says it. No, we go through this every year. That's exactly what it says. "I ran to the window and I threw up." That is so stupid. It doesn't say that, Daddy. It doesn't. David, it does. It says exactly that. "I ran to the window and I threw up." And then we exchanged gifts. And everybody loved the presents I gave them. They loved them. Wowsy, wowsy, wow, wow, wow. Whoop-de-doodle-bug. Oh, Jono, I love these bridge cards. They're wonderful. Oh, Jono, Pono, oop-oop-be-doodle-doo. Wow, a book on sailing. Terrific. Written by my favorite author, William F. Buckley. Spectacular, John. Hey, a book on modern art. Interesting. Thanks. And I got my usual gifts. Sweaters. A whole bunch of sweaters, which I loved. And then I told them it was time to go. I had to go home. I had to go down to the bus pad and take the bus back to the city. And then they all wanted to drive me home. "Oh, no, that's all right. I'll drive you home." "No, I will drive him home." "No, I'll drive you home. I'll drive you home." I said, "No, I want to take the bus. I want to walk through the town, wait for the bus." I gave them all a kiss. And I walked down our lane. As I walked down, I looked back over my shoulder. And there was the tree in the window with all of its lights and decorations. And they were all standing beside it, waving to me as I walked down the hill. I got on the bus and I got out my book and I read about Alexander the Great. As I went home to Michael, to see my lovely husband. I battled my way all the way into India. Callisthenes, join me. Hard fighting. Terrifically hard. Have you tried this Persian wine? It's excellent. You don't even have to dilute it. It's perfect the way it is. It's rich. Callisthenes, I've come to a decision. I've decided that the Persians want to perform proskynesis. They want to bow to me. Now, in Persia, their king is a god. And now that Darius is dead, I'm their king. And they want to bow to me. I know it. And if they don't bow to me, they won't know that I'm a god. And then they might not obey me. So I want to let them bow to me. I want them to perform proskynesis. I want them to bow. I mean, I am a god after all, right? Broadly speaking, yes. Yeah, yeah. So, I think they should bow to me. I'm going to start insisting on it. Proskynesis. Your Majesty, be careful. Remember that Achilles never acted like a hero or like a god until he did. And then he discovered his heel, his Achilles heel. All right, yeah. Yeah. From now on, my Persian vassals will perform proskynesis. You will bow to me, the great Alexander. Come, Persians, bow to your king. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Da dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun dun dun. Da dum bum ba-dum ba-dum. Ba-dum bum ba-bum. Ba-dum bum 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 bum. Ba-dum ba-bum bum ba-da ba-dum. Ba-dum bum bum. Callisthenes, I feel like the Persians feel inferior to the Greeks because the Greeks don't bow to me. They don't perform proskynesis. So from now on, I want the Greeks to bow to me also. Now, I know that they're going to be sensitive about this. But what they can do is they can bow to me, perform proskynesis, and then I'll give them a kiss. So they'll bow to a god, but they'll get a kiss from a man. Yeah. Greeks, approach me. Perform your service, proskynesis. Bow to me, and I will give you each a kiss. Bow to your great king. Whoa, Callisthenes, you didn't bow to me. A Greek should never bow to anyone except a god. You should certainly never bow to a man. All right, Callisthenes, then you'll get no kiss. Very well, then. I shall go away the poor a kiss. I got home and I shared a wonderful Christmas with my wonderful husband, Michael, right here in this apartment. We had a little tree, and on Christmas morning, we opened our presents. And my favorite present, I tore it open. It was a little red jaqueta, a little red jacket. It was so cute. Michael had discovered that one of my colors, who knew, was red. I put on my jacket, and we went on one of our favorite walks ever in the city. We went to the top of Corona Heights, and there we were, above the Castro, surveying the city on Christmas morning. It was wonderful. We came home, and Michael made us a wonderful dinner. Turkey with all the trimmings, stuffed with food. We got into bed, and I took my book with me. I got into bed, and I read my book. I read all about two page boys, two servants of Alexander the Great. A boy named Hermolaus and Sostratus. They were lovers, the two of them, just teenagers. And I read this fascinating story about Hermolaus and Sostratus. Sostratus, come to me. Sostratus, I love you. I love you deeply with all my heart. Alexander beat me today. He beat me savagely. He acts like a god, Oh, I was hunting. I was hunting with him, and I speared a boar that he wanted to spear, and then he just beat me. He beat me and humiliated me in front of everybody. He's out of his brain. He really thinks he is the son of Zeus. Sostratus, I want to kill him. I want to assassinate him, and you can help me because we have the watch tonight. We're the only ones. And when we're supposed to be watching him, we'll sneak into his bedroom and kill him. Will you help me? Sostratus, I love you. Come on. What are we going to do about Callisthenes? He's become arrogant. He refused to bow to me. I loved him. I loved him as a friend. Is he coming? Is he coming? Sostratus, is he coming? No. No, he's still drinking. Come on, come on, come on. He's still drinking. Come on. Callisthenes, my long-lost friend. Callisthenes. Callisthenes. Psst, psst. Sostratus. Come on. Why? Why? You made me a god. You wrote it up. You told me why so you are. And yet you won't bow to me, even as a friend. You refuse my kiss. Sostratus, come on. Lock the door behind me. Lock it. Oh, Callisthenes, my long-lost friend. My little philosopher. What is it? What? Assassination? What? Who? Himalayas. Sostratus. My pages. Seize them. Get them. Bring them to me. Bring them to me. They couldn't have organized this on their own. They must have been inspired by somebody. Who's their mentor? Who's their teacher? Bring him to me. Right now, bring him to me. Callisthenes, how dare you? How dare you? I assume, Your Majesty, you're talking about my not bowing to you. No, I am not. I'm talking about you encouraging those brats to try and kill me. Well, they didn't. They failed. They've been stoned to death on my instructions, and now you will confess it. You will confess your crime to me. I have nothing to do with this, Your Majesty. I don't believe you. You will confess it. My parents, they only invited me to go out with them. Only me. They never invited Michael. I decided that if they wouldn't accept Michael, they wouldn't get me. And so I wouldn't go out with them. I wouldn't even return their phone calls. I was drawing inspiration and strength, fortitude from Alexander the Great. Dr. Hoffman encouraged me to write about Callisthenes and Alexander the Great. And he said to me, and this was his dictum, only use primary sources, don't use secondary sources, only use people who are writing in antiquity, people who were able to see everything, who were able to base their thoughts on observed behavior. He thought that was so important. And I learned that lesson too, when I thought that my parents were so angry at me, so disappointed in me. But that's not what I observed. That's what they told me. But what I observed was they were just unhappy, and I didn't know why. That's what I observed. And that's what would be so important to my paper about Callisthenes and Alexander. He always inspired me, Dr. Hoffman. So I was now writing a paper about Alexander the Great, about his homosexuality, and about his rage at Callisthenes. You will confess to me. You will confess your crime. You will confess it. Confess it. Confess it, Callisthenes. I will only confess, Your Majesty, that you are not a god. And as a man, I could never plan to assassinate you, for you are only a man. I was becoming disillusioned with Alexander the Great. I could see that he had limitations. Take him away. Torture him. Torture Callisthenes. Cut off his ears, his nose, cut off his lips. But get a confession. Get a confession. Did he confess? Then throw him into a well. Throw him to the bottom of a well with ravenous dogs. Let them eat him. Let them eat him. Is he dead? My only friend. Lecter. Come on. We have work to do. We must launch another assault on India. 10 months passed. 10 months and I hadn't seen my parents. And then one day I got a phone call from my mother. Jono, your father and I would like you and Michael to come over to the house for Thanksgiving dinner. The ice had thawed. Of course, I asked Michael what he thought. He said, yeah, why not? That's Michael, just full of love and acceptance. So we both got dressed up and we did our ablutions. Da 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 da. Na, 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 and we got on the bus and we went to my little town and we walked up my lane, my handsome partner and I, Michael, my hubby. And we got to our little lane. We walked all the way up it. And when we got to the top of the lane, we walked right in the front door. My mother came up to both of us and she kissed us on the cheek. And Michael said the perfect thing. Mrs. Fisher, your home is so beautiful. Oh, that got her right there. He knew exactly what to say to her. And she said, would you like me to show you around? He said, would I ever? And she gave him the tour. He knew where her heart lay. And we had a wonderful visit. My final class with Dr. Hoffman, he was lecturing on Nero's mother. Well, we all have mothers, so I'm sure you can understand Nero's mother. I suddenly realized he was gay. Dr. Hoffman was gay. Of course he was gay. And then I talked to my spies in the history department, and I got the skinny. He was gay. He was as gay as me. I thought, this is my inspiration. Not Alexander the Great, but Dr. Hoffman, the man who led me to these great stories. I realized that he was my gay inspiration. Meanwhile, Alexander had fought his way into India. It's just a fever. I have a fever. That's all. Callisthenes, you know how to take care of me. You know how to bring me out of these slumps. You knew how to protect me. Callisthenes. And so Alexander died, having gotten all the way to India. He created the greatest empire ever known. But in trying to become a god, he just became more and more of a man. He lost himself. He was a gay inspiration because he had boyfriends and he conquered the world. But in the process, he lost his soul. And I think of that Christmas and the tree that I put up, how my family came together, and finally their ice melted, a happy ending like every Christmas story. Michael was assumed into the family. They overcame their limitations. And Dr. Hoffman lecturing me year after year, taking me on the great journey of ancient history. What an inspiration he was. And I would talk to him in his office, and he was so busy. All the teachers at State are so busy. But he always took a moment to connect and say something encouraging. And he encouraged me to write about Callisthenes and the page boys and the disillusionment. And I found such inspiration in this wonderful gay teacher and all these wonderful gay stories and the ability of all people to be both mean when they're feeling other things, but eventually to let those other things go, to lose the meanness, to decorate a tree, to turn on the lights, to accept their son's husband, to ring in the holidays with acceptance. Thank you, Dr. Hoffman, wherever you are, somewhere in San Francisco. I hope retired and blissful and leading the life of an ancient Greek. Silver bells, silver bells, it's Christmas time in the city. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm John Fisher, and this has been Callisthenes for Christmas. This piece is based on primary sources by Plutarch, Quintus Curtius, Arrian, Polybius, and Diodorus Sculus, and a secondary source that led me to a lot of new stuff by Fox. You can read more about it. Every account of his life is amazing, and always the most interesting part is his relationship with Callisthenes. As you know, since shelter in place set in, we've been providing free programming. We've been doing play readings. We've been putting on plays with memorized lines. I've been doing my solo performances. We've been doing radio shows, and all of it free. We're now about halfway through our subscription season, which is our only ticketed event. And that actually is a paid for ticket. But all of these programs are free and brought to you. We want to stay in touch with our audience. If you'd like to make a donation to our theater to support these programs, and it's COVID-19, so you can imagine a nonprofit theater, we could certainly use your support. You can mail a check to me, John Fisher, at my COVID-19 office, Theater Rhinoceros, 91 Central Avenue, Suite number 102, San Francisco, California, 94117, or you can go on our website, www.therhino.org, and make a donation there. But more than anything, thank you for being such a terrific audience. We wish you happy holidays. Look for us in the new year with a new play reading series starting the first Tuesday of the month of January at 7 p.m. and a whole new show, a wonderful show about the modern art world called The Review. Look for all that in January. I'll be back next week with a show about gay physics. Yes, it's true. So until next Wednesday at 8 p.m., happy holidays and good night.